G'day, welcome back. I'd especially like to welcome my new subscribers, and I hope you enjoy the content of my channel. If you missed the last video, the little thread repair, there's a link up there now, you can go watch that first, then come back and watch this one. I suggested during the lathe upgrade that I'd been thinking for a while about making a steady rest. So follow me over to the bench and we'll go on with it. Alrighty, probably a little lucky we're going to get a video this week because I've done nothing for a week and a half. I just had the worst dose of the flu I've ever had in my life. Kicked the crap out of me. I'm still not 100%, but can't sit around doing nothing any longer. So anyway, I got out to my favourite scrappy looking for a nice round plate, and they just didn't have anything. And I was about to give up and walk out the door and I spotted this. Now it's pretty thick. Must be overmeasured. It must be somewhere between 20 mil and an inch, I suppose. 25 mil. What is it? 20 mil. 7/8. I've got no way of cutting a circle in this, cutting the centre out of it easily. So I'm going to have to put my rotary table on the mill and mill a circle out of it. I'll just use a little roughing cutter or something to cut a circle out. Not sure if I want to round the ends off yet, but that's what I want to do. And while I've got it in the milling table, sorry, in the rotary table, I'll also machine some slots in here. Not going to go too hard on this. I think I'll just make some flat pieces with a slot in it and a clamp bolt. Just move them in and out manually. I've sort of been thinking long and hard about putting adjusters on it, but anyway, we'll see. We'll have a look and see what I come up with, because I've got no firm plan for it like I normally don't. So follow me over to the mill and we'll get started on this thing after I've marked it all out over there. Alrighty, just a little side note before we move on with this. Solved my oil draining out of here problem with it's actually a pneumatic, a speed controller. It's just a needle valve. So and I filled that up nearly 2 weeks ago and it hasn't drained out. So just a little twist to let a tiny bit through. We'll see how we go. Now back down here for the main show. Alrighty, I did something I wouldn't normally do, and I actually made a drawing, but my bloody daughter, hang on, let's turn this light on here. My daughter just can't leave anything alone. She's been drawing all over this thing with a bloody felt pen. Just as well I scanned it. So what I'll do is I'll put the scanned version up on the screen so you can see it. But this is basically what I'm going to machine up. I've already done all 3 pieces here, 3 sides, both ends. That end I will do last. So that one won't matter much. I've decided I will make it adjustable, and what I'll do is I'll just bolt a little tab on the end so that I can put an adjusting screw through there so I can wind it in and out with a little retainer on I'll make the screws up myself. So I'll get on with this. I want to cut these slots in here for these 608ZZ bearings, which will be here today sometime. They're little skateboard bearings. Alrighty, over to get down in there 18mm. It's clearly going to take a while. I'll bring you back later. Alrighty, so that's to depth. I do believe I've stuffed this up already. That should have been across that way, not this way. I haven't machined this side yet, so we can sort that out later. Bearings showed up while I was doing that, so they're the bearings I'm going to use in it. 608s. I'm going to have to make some shims for them because that's an 8mm cutter and they're 7mm bearings. But anyway, so I'll get the other 2 done and we'll set up to do the next part. Alrighty, so that's all 3 of those done. I forgot to mention before, the reason I'm doing these first is so that when I go to machine the slots in that plate, I can use these to test it all out with. It's lunchtime now, so I'll have some lunch, and when after lunch I'm going to drill and ream some 8mm holes in here. Alrighty, so I've got 4 processes I want to go through here. I want to spot them, so I'm going to do all of them, take them in and out, and then I'm going to recess them with a 10mm end mill, and then I'll drill them all and then I'll ream them all. Well, it's no use sticking an 8mm reamer down in there, the bloody thing just fell through it anyway. Alrighty, I'm going to call that done, bar a little chamfer on the top there, so that's that part of it done. Alrighty, so while you guys weren't looking, I've milled all this side out of it, and I've got to say, I'm not feeling that flash today, and I should have just stayed in bed because it's been stuff up after stuff up after stuff up. First up, I machined that the wrong way when it should have been through there. Now I've machined this side instead of that side, and then just to top it off, this was the first one I did. I went too deep in there and took a chunk out of there and had to weld it up and re-machine it. But anyway, that's life. Shit happens. This was supposed to be on the other side, so that you know, when I mount it up in the thing, it can retract all the way in, so I don't lose any, you know, the diameter of anything I want to machine. Because with two of them sticking out either side, you're going to lose 2 inches, you know. It's ridiculous. So tomorrow, it's getting late in the day. Tomorrow morning I will put just a clean end mill in there and just run a finishing cut over these, chamfer them, drill and slot these, and then these parts will be basically done. Originally I was going to put the pin through, like that's the head of the pin that goes in there, and a clip or a C-clip or something on, or a pin or something on this side to hold it, but I can't do that now because it's got to be able to slide down the side of it. So I decided what I'll do is I'll just make a little plate up that sits over the top of the pin, and I'll put a screw in there to hold it in place. I'll stop pin coming out. Alrighty, so outside a small thread to drill and tap in there, and a small thread to drill and tap in here. That's these things finished. I'm starting to think this project's cursed. I stuffed up this morning and fed the bloody table the wrong way and took a chunk out of here and had to weld that up and re-machine it. So that wasted a freaking hour. Had 2 goes at welding it back up. But anyway, so that's them just about done. All I want to do after that is just round these ends off a bit. Decided the easy way out of this, out of retaining that pin there, is just to use a button head and put the thread in really close to the side here so that the outside edge of the head will retain the pin. That's all I really need. And this is way too long, but I'll just screw it in and cut the back of end of it off. I've also decided I'm going to re-drill this hole on this side to 9mm. That way I only have to make 3 shims for the bearings, because a 9mm shoulder will keep, you know, if I go protrude through it 1/2 mm, that's half of the distance I need to shim to keep it away from the inside of this side here. So, alright, now that that's done, we'll get on with something else. Alrighty, so it's time to get on with the star of the show. Spend a bit of time cleaning all this up this morning, fitting this thing up. So let's fire this up. I don't really know how we're going to go. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Well, I've got to say, that was bloody hard work. I was going to 3mm depth of cut there, and it's really difficult to turn, so I might try a 2mm depth of cut. Obviously going to take a very long time, so I'll bring you back later when I get a bit closer to having this all machined out. Well, that took an eternity, that did. In the end, I tried the 2mm depth of cut, and I discovered in the end that 2.5 no harder to push it through than 2mm was. I think I'm going to pull this bloody table off before I do the centre and try and get some oil up into the mating surfaces up in the bottom, because I can get at them through that hole in the bottom, because I think a lot of this tightness is not the colour, it's actually the table itself binding up. I got an oiler just there, and I did oil in here before I started it, because it did feel pretty stiff. Alrighty. This area back here, it has to be cut off straight down there and straight down there, and I don't know if I want to go to the trouble of trying to mill that out, but when I get to that point I might be able to power feed that backwards and forwards in there and save me a bit of time, because my bloody hand's killing me. I had to have a break halfway through it. It was such hard work turning that thing all the time. But anyway, next up I'll make these 2 cuts in here and then contemplate what I want to do in there. Well, I don't know what happened there. Pass I just made down there and this fell off was supposed to be the second last pass. And I was going to record the pass that chopped it off, but somehow I'm only down at 7.5mm, but I'm all the way through that 20mm, so I don't know how that happened. The DRO must be playing up a bit. Alrighty, so that's all of that done. Now before I cut the centre out of this, I want to machine the 3 grooves in it for these things, because I can still hold it in the centre. I'm definitely going to have to take this table off, because when I was cutting this one here, occasionally we turn the handle and nothing would be happening, the table wouldn't be turning. So I think the little worm wheel on the shaft for the handle, the grub screws must be coming loose on it. So I'm definitely going to have to pull it off and have a look at that. But anyway, I've had enough for one day, my back's killing me, and I've got to say, if I couldn't have power fed these 2, there's no way I would have cut them. I would have got the angle grinder out and cut them off. Well, I got to admit that was absolutely nerve-wracking cutting that. It's a little bit of tightness there, but I think I'll just dress these up rather than try and take any more out of there. Well, if you watch me do one, I'm not going to make you sit through the other 2, so I'll do the other 2 and then we'll come back to you. Alrighty, like I did with the others, I will dress. Wait, I stuffed up. Before I put this on, I wanted to finish everything I needed the vise for. I kept thinking there was something else I needed to do, and I couldn't think what it was. And what it was to machine that side that I hadn't machined. So I've only been dressing these up on the belt sander, and so that I know they're going to fit the slot I machined to it. I've marked them. That one's top and back. And this one will be marked F for front. Alrighty, so right, so the next job should be to get this table off here and check it out, try and oil it underneath and check that bloody screw. But what I want to do is, while I've got this 4-fluted end mill in there, make a run around the outside. So I'm going to do that, and then after that I'll get this table off, or clean up, and then get the table off. After I've been down to get myself a nice cough, bloody hot here again today. Alrighty, that's it for this setup. Get this table off here and sort it out, and then we'll get on with everything else that needs to be done. All three of those are going to need to be dressed up a bit to make them fit better, but I'd rather do that than mess around trying to make these slots right. Well, I'm reasonably happy with how that came up. I didn't get everything, probably do another trip around there, but my hands are killing me from turning the handle. So I'll get this table off here, get everything cleaned up, get it set back up, and when I'm ready to cut the centre out, I'll bring you back. At this point in the video, I'd like to thank my patrons for the continued support. It's greatly appreciated. If you'd like to become a patron, there's a link down in the description. You can sign up down there and toss me a couple of dollars every month. If you don't want to become a patron, there's always Buy Me a Coffee, and there's a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that, or there's always that thanks button down there. Alrighty, so I couldn't actually find anything wrong inside the table. It was all well lubricated and still as stiff as it was. One thing I did find, there was 4 bolts missing from underneath the bottom here. Don't know why, but they were. Must have run out and never got around to put more in. But anyway, so I've got this all set up now to cut the centre out, so let's get on with it. Oh, thank God that's finished. It's taken best part of an hour and a half. And I nearly had a major cock up early in the piece. I don't know whether you noticed it while I was going around. Just let me blow all the crap off this. I set all this up yesterday afternoon with the aim of just coming out here this morning and firing up and chopping the centre out. And I forgot to lock up the X and the Y axis. The bloody thing's moved, and at the end of the first trip all the way around, I looked at it and I went, oh, what the hell's going on there? And I hadn't even turned on the DROs, and I turned them on and looked at them and went, oh shit. So luckily it was only at the end of the first pass when I found that, so no great damage done. So I'll put that 8mm end, 4 fluid end mill back in there now and make a trip around the inside and clean it up. Well, that looks like I've chipped the bloody this cutter, but I don't see a chip in it. That's a pisser. Never mind, I'll sand that out. Alrighty, so I'll get that out of there. We'll give it a bit of a clean up. Actually, before I do that, I might run the chamfering tool around this inside edge here, but I won't bother videoing that. Alrighty, I was going to finish all this off before I did this bit, but decided I might as well leave it until I'm finished doing this. I've still got to drill and tap some holes in this thing yet, and possibly cut a piece off the bottom to mount it with. These all slide nicely now. I just finished cleaning them up, so they're all good. And how's that old saying go? The best laid plans of mice and men. Don't know what I was thinking of when I thought this was going to slide all the way back in there, because the bearing... Oh, come on, get out. The bearing is actually... bearing's bigger than this bloody thing, so it'll reduce what I can fit in there. But anyway, shit happens. I mean, I always had the option, I suppose, of I've got a 20mm cutter, of machining a bit of a 20mm recess in there so these bearings should come back in, but I could be bothered. What else? Oh, this thing. One of the reasons I didn't just get, I was tempted to get out the angle grinder, just hack those 2 bits off the top, and then I started thinking I can use the piece of that to make a hinge. I need to cut this in half, you know, so you can hinge it open. I decided I can use a bit of this. I'll just weld it back on, machine a slot in here, and you can make a round piece to weld onto the top part, and I can make a hinge out of this. No problems at all. And I'll sort something out here for clamping, and I might just middle down through there after I've cut it off, and then drill and tap a hole in there, put a clamp bolt in so it can swing open. But anyway, still got an awful lot to do yet. I've still got to make the pins for these, I've got to make the adjusting knobs for there. I have to come up with the base so I can clamp it onto the rails into the lathe. There's a bit of machining in that, so I'm going to have to call this to an end. If you enjoyed watching me make this, make sure you give it a great big thumbs up and smash that like button. And I'll see you next week for part 2. Bye bye.